the package. So as you saw in the intro, I bought the Komplete Kontrol S61 MK2 by Native Instruments. But there's actually a bit of a story to that because I didn't mean to buy this keyboard. Initially I just decided that I wanted to have some more sounds to use in my productions. And to that end I bought a drum library from Make Pop Music called the Anderson Pack, which is a very nice drum library by the way, and it's a Kontakt instrument. Well, you can also import it in Groove Agent and lots of other things, but the most extensive functionality is in Kontakt. Now so far I did have the Kontakt player, like probably everybody, because it's free. However, this drum library did not work in the free Kontakt player. So you basically had to have the full Kontakt version to make it run without timing out. I should have known this, but I didn't check it beforehand. Anyway, when that happened I decided, because I wanted to get more sounds anyway, let's buy Kontakt full version, which comes with quite a few Kontakt libraries, and it also enables you to use a lot of free and cheap third-party Kontakt libraries. It was also summer sale at Native Instruments, so I got it at a 50% reduced price as well. Now after that I noticed that I could also upgrade to the Komplete 13 package for the reduced summer sale price as well. So I figured, let's go for it. So I ended up with a lot of additional instruments from Native Instruments, a lot of Kontakt libraries which are part of Komplete 13 full version. Now after I got that, I looked into what I had actually bought, and well, there's very many libraries, many instruments, many sample and loop sets, so there's really an abundance of choice now. And that was also a bit of the next challenge. How do you actually make a choice from that abundance of sounds that I suddenly had on my hard disk? So I researched a bit further, and then I ran into the Komplete Kontrol S61 MK2 keyboard, which is now behind me here. I saw that it had a very nice integration with Cubase, but also with lots of other DAWs, and I noticed that it also had some easy ways to access all those sounds that were now on my hard disk. So you only live once, right? So I ordered that as well. And in any case, my old MIDI keyboard was due for an upgrade, which I've had for, I don't know, probably 20 plus years now. And additionally, this one has some nice lights for in my YouTube videos. Now this is not a new product, I think it probably has been out for about 3-4 years now. So you can find lots of detailed videos on the internet on how to operate it. And believe me, I watched every single one of them. So in this video, I just want to go over the highlights, for me, of what it brings integrated with Cubase, and what it might also bring to you if you don't have it yet, or maybe you already have it and you have lots of nice tips for me. So let's see what it can do, and I'll take it step by step, gradually building up to the maximum functionality and maximum integration, but we'll start simple. Let's have a look. Now in order to demonstrate it here, I have the keyboard on my desk over here, but it's a bit cramped for space, and you see this weird contraption here where I film with my iPhone as well. But if you look at the keyboard, you can see that it's connected via one USB cable, and that's for all the control connections, but that's also for the power supply. If you have an 88 key version of this keyboard, for which I didn't have enough room, there is a separate power supply for that, but this is all USB bus powered, which is quite convenient, one cable. Now when you're talking about integration, there's basically 3 levels of integration. One is the way I have it set up now. Right now it's basically just a MIDI keyboard. After installing the Native Instruments software, you get a special MIDI driver. So let's set up our first instrument, and let's make it one which is not Native Instruments, for example Vital. And if I now select the preset, for example this one, you can see that it's basically just a MIDI controller. Now in order to make sure that that works correctly in Cubase, you can go to Studio Setup, and then to MIDI port setup, and you see over here that you see Komplete Kontrol 1 is a MIDI input that I can now use, and it needs to be visible and also active and part of all MIDI inputs. So that if you set this to all MIDI inputs, the input on the Komplete Kontrol MIDI input is taken as well. But I can also just select it like this, of course. But let's leave it to all MIDI inputs. And what you can also do is you can see over here that you have various continuous controller buttons and knobs here. And you can scroll through 2 banks of them with these buttons. And you have the ones on top here, which are just on-off controllers. And I could basically configure these now for Vital the way I like. However, the next level of integration is much more interesting. And that is that you can set up the Komplete Kontrol as a remote device for Cubase. For that you again need to go to Studio Setup. Over here you see the remote devices, and I want to add a remote device, being the Komplete Kontrol S series. And then MIDI input and output here needs to be set to Complete Kontrol DAW. And when you look on the controller now, a number of extra buttons have lit up. Being here the loop, metronome, stop button, mute and solo. And you can basically use these to control your DAW. For example, with this button I can move the playhead. I can turn on the metronome. I can turn on the loop. I can start playback. I can stop playback. I can go back to where I started from. And this basically allows you to do a quick record and play from just the keyboards without having to touch your mouse very much at all. For example, if I add another track now, and let's now add a native instrument, for example, Kontakt, and let me add some strings. So I now have two tracks that I can navigate between. With this button, I can navigate left, right with this button. So let's quickly record something now on the vital track. So I select the vital track, I have the metronome enabled, and I can record. Now if I didn't like that, I can undo it with this button, or I can redo. At the same time, my timing wasn't perfect, so I can now also quantize it to the quantize setting in Cubase by pushing this button. So let's listen to that. Yeah, all right. Now let's add some strings. Select the string library and let me enable an option which will make it sound much more impressive. Now I can now also use the keyboard for mixing. If I push the mixer button over here, I get my two tracks over here, and if I play back, I can adjust the volume or the panning by pushing shift and moving up here. The panner gets selected. Or I can even mute or solo certain tracks by pushing M and then one of these tracks to mute, solo, one of these tracks to solo. Yeah, so you get quite a lot more control already. And by now, if you like this video or find it useful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and ring the little bell icon so you know when I post another video. There's also lots of affiliate links in the description below, also to this stuff, so if you're still planning on doing any purchases and you want to help the channel at the same time, you can use those affiliate links. I'll get a small commission without any extra cost to you. Okay, now if I open Kontakt again on this channel, you can see that there are key ranges here indicated in Kontakt. Red, yellow, green, blue. And they kind of indicate which instruments are going to sound when you play in that range. And you see that there's also lots of parameters that you can adjust in this Kontakt library. Now, wouldn't it be nice if you could also control that from the keyboard? And that's actually the next level of integration, because currently we're just stuck to standard MIDI still, with additional DAW integration now. To get better integration with the native instruments world, I can add another track, and instead of Kontakt, I'm going to add Complete Kontrol. And you see that over here, I have the Complete Kontrol plugin, and it says use the browser to load an instrument. I can now push the browse button over here. And now I have all my instruments that I have installed available for selection over here. For example, if I now install the same session strings, and let's do the Ensemble Modern, and I can basically now listen to a preview of all the presets in this instrument. So let's load this one. And now you can see that the light guide actually indicates the same colors that were previously indicated within Kontakt. And on this row of buttons, you can see that there's a lot of parameters which you can now alter, which are part of this instrument. For example, the reverb, the color, any delay, etc., etc. You can also still change presets within the instrument by using this button. Now, a very nice option is also that in the browser, if you set this to all instruments, all products, you can now basically search through all presets of all instruments. And if that's a bit much, you can also limit it. For example, maybe we still need a bass guitar. Yeah, maybe a fingered bass guitar. Then these are the options that I have available. So for example, I can load up funk bass. And apparently that's just a standard Kontakt library. Now I am wondering though why I didn't get many more options, because now it says I only have 10 results, but I have lots of bass instruments on here. For example, the Rickenbacker. With lots and lots of presets, 52 already. So I would kind of expect that they would also be featured when I'm looking for a fingered bass. If any of you know why these were not part of the list, please let me know in the comments. But let's get back to our session strings again. And let's load the first one. Now if you use the Kontakt without Komplete Kontrol, you may notice that there's now quite a few controls missing compared to the full Kontakt version. Now if you want to restore those with Komplete Kontrol, you can, but you need to change the view a bit. You need to go to View, Edit View, which already gives you something which looks more like the full Kontakt. And then you can also take away the Komplete Kontrol parts that you don't like. And now it looks exactly like Kontakt again. In the way that you used to, with all the parameters in the way that you used to. Now there is obviously still one additional software layer in between, because Kontakt is running within Komplete Kontrol. But it does give you the full integration with the keyboard, which you don't get if you run Kontakt separately. So this is what I basically learned during my first experiences with this keyboard. I feel the hardware seems quite sturdy. I'm not a keyboard player, but I do like the keypad quite a lot. It's much better and more sturdy than my previous controller at least. And apparently this keypad is made by a company called Vatar, which also makes the keypads for in Nord synths, for example. The quick and easy access to sounds and the basic DAW integration, I like that a lot as well, especially if you're trying to be creative. You can basically do most of it just from the keyboard. When you just want to layer tracks, for example, it's pretty easy to select the sound, start recording, stop, quantize, change the levels a bit, etc. The basic controls really. Unfortunately, you only get the full integration when you use Komplete Kontrol as the instrument plugin, and not, for example, when you use Kontakt or Massive or some other Native Instruments library directly. In that case, you basically have the same controls as for any third-party library. Basic MIDI with control of your DAW, Cubase for me. Now, if you have any experience with Komplete Kontrol, Kontakt that I should be aware of, or nice tips and tricks, please let me know in the comments. That would be really great. Now, a couple of months ago, I also had a look at a free symphonic library, and you can check that out in this video. So have a look, enjoy, and see you soon.